All right. Let me just start H4. So today, well, Tuesday, right, we were anticipating a potential, pretty much topping out, giving us a sign of retracement, at least for the short, medium term. And as we said on Tuesday, unfortunately, we did not fully complete the unwillingness slash liquidity grab, which would, give us that retracement. So what we had anticipated with Tuesday was the continuation to the upside based on a premium, based on a discount, which is kind of what we got, right? Realistic discount. We didn't get the exact lines that I had pointed out, but the bias remained the same. So now this is where it becomes super interesting, because now that I'm seeing this, right, we obviously have a potential structural disruption, but we had already talked about how we can sometimes see a potential whiplash where we see the upwards trend, the retracement, right, and then a potential structural disruption, which will whiplash. And now I even see this whiplashing again. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because in comparison to what we had seen last week, this week, right, we have now created relative equal highs, not necessarily equal highs as a whole, but I see this as an unsubstantial new high. I see this as a willingness to go lower, which failed. But as soon as we took out our previous high, we took out the monthly POI that we have been talking about, and we had a sign of order flow disruption here. The reason why I'm saying that there is because I don't even have to zoom in. You guys can see an H1SC and then bouncing off of H1 inefficiency, which leads to order flow disruption. But when we go into our 30-minute time frame, right, we actually see the full result here, right, where we see the reaction based on a POI, and that is now taken out. And not only is that order flow disruption, but we also see, right, an internal liquidity grab be present, which is what's giving us that short-term bearish momentum, right? So as of now, I don't necessarily see this as a low-high continuation, just because, like we said before, we haven't really solidified the range yet. Right, all we've been doing is really just continued higher. We haven't solidified a range, so I don't necessarily want to force any more continuations because we are still within that premium. And not only that, but we're also seeing a potential bearish engulfing today. The weekly would close 50-50. I can't really make any conclusions based on this closure, but with a daily engulfing, the internal liquidity grab, the internal order flow disruption, I'm more so confident that we're finally going to see some sort of retracement. And as of now, I can only really assume a continuation to the downside, especially with, right, multiple attempts to continue higher. You can see that there was a potential bullish liquidity grab here. You also see the initial reaction. So all of this here is just failure to continue higher. And with that being said, EU would pretty much be the same thing. This one, in my opinion, looks a little bit more bullish than this looks bearish, mainly because we've already reached previous highs, or almost reached a previous high already. But I don't necessarily want to confuse this with accumulation, even though it's kind of what it's looking like, right? The only way that we can confirm that is if we get our sign of strength and our continuation to the upside. However, we have seen, right, strong bearish volume, low momentum based on high volume. Then the internal move downwards is unsupported, so we're seeing the internal reaction, right, towards the upside. So as of now, all right, I don't necessarily favor any type of continuation to the downside with EURUSD. And if we are to create a sign of strength, right, then realistically, the only reason that we can continue lower would be a bearish transition, and that would be more so within a premium. Yes, I'm sorry. Right. However, it really just depends on what range we're looking into. The reason why I'm initially looking here was this is a previous structure point. However, with the breaking or with the break of this significant high here, which is the final push down, we are realistically solidifying our high into our low, and which therefore retracement would be anywhere after the SOS there. So I do see this bottoming out for a little bit. I don't want to say too much. However, this is looking very interesting, because if I'm going to look at this from the reversal bias now, then we can look obviously into our 3-month POI that we have already pointed out before, and we are seeing a potential 3-month POI, and within that 3-month POI we're seeing a potential 1-hour accumulation, right, with the volume supporting it, with the structure almost supporting it up until we see that sign of strength. And it's only until that sign of strength is completed that we see the accumulation complete. But this could even be, and I don't want to be superstitious or anything, but this could realistically be, right, a pretty big scenario where we see a very big impulsive move, just because of how long this is taking, right, to actually form itself, and the bias that is in play, and the overall POI that is also in play. It could be something pretty big, but I don't want to, I don't want to fully count on that bias, because realistically I cannot fully assume this is bullish until this previous high is out. So I would more so be inclined for a bearish bias if we actually give that's a bad drawing, but an unsubstantial new low, and then we see transitions. This would more incline me to continue higher. So right, as of now, this is looking pretty interesting, especially with our daily, like we said, bullish engulfing, like bearish engulfing with DXY, right? And the weekly is looking more, let me take the drawings off, is looking more bullish than DXY is looking bearish. So this will be pretty interesting to see what happens next week, but I don't want to fully count on an accumulation in this type of scenario, only because it's only based on a 3-month POI, and we've been bearish since May of last year, which is a year. Actually, we could even say since here. We've literally been bearish for a year and a half almost. So yeah, that goes with that. AUDUSD, I actually didn't really look at this too much this week. But if we're going solely based on what we had gone on last week, we are still bearish. However, we are seeing potentially the internal liquidity graph start to form. I'm sure there's already been bullish transitions inside due to this being the 2-hour, but due to this happening here, I would need either a bearish transition here or a dip into a discount in order to actually play either bias. I don't necessarily want to play the bearish bias. I would need extra confirmation here, only because we have the potential liquidity gap forming, and this would be also a continuation BOS, and a potential reversal BOS from even a minor intraday, and by that I mean more down here, right? Because we're technically breaking through the final range into the downside, and this would more so favor than a bullish bias internally. But like I said, it's really hard to chase these reversals. Right, not saying that they cannot happen, but it's a lot harder to rely on them. So as of now, from a minor intraday, due to us taking out final leg to the downside, right, that is technically continuation BOS, but we have already also assumed that we see a bullish liquidity grab in play. Right, and I also don't want to force this either, but you could see realistically the same scenario as EURUSD, with obviously pushes to the downside, high volume, low momentum, and then once we come down lower, it's unsupported. So we're seeing realistically the same thing, which is what's giving us this initial move. So as of now, from a continuation standpoint, only from a minor intraday, you are looking at continuations to the upside. But as for the long-term bias, right, I can't necessarily count on the bearish, only because this is looking very, very corrective. And just like with EU, we are very overextended. So let's see how we begin to react here. And then also with this potentially reversing, we could be seeing some good reversal opportunities, but just be mindful of that minor intraday scenario. But with that being said, excuse me, don't have much else to cover today. What kind of questions do you guys have today? Wrong one. Okay. Cool. Any questions? Any studies today? E 68. Yeah. The only reason I'm being super cautious with the continuation too is just that we're ranging up. Once we're starting to range up, then we could be seeing a sign of reversal just because of how impulsive we've been before. Not necessarily with AU, but with this one. We're starting to range up. In comparison to before, it was very, very impulsive. Yeah, it's looking a bit suspect, yeah. And if we clear this to the high side, this is technically, right, seeing it from this time frame, it is technically order flow disruption as well, just because we've already seen the reaction. Cool, yeah, does anybody have any questions? Cool, I hope you guys are doing well. If we don't have any questions today, anything you guys want to cover, it's probably going to be a short Zoom today. I am reading the chat though, guys. I do like to see the engagement. I just, like I said before, I don't really like to fully involve myself. If you guys need me, you guys know how to reach me. I just don't want it to become too conflicting with what I say with what other people say. So if you guys need anything from me, you guys can always DM me. You guys don't necessarily have to do stuff here on Zoom. I do still get journal reviews every week, so you guys can count that I still do those. But yeah, I do see the engagement in the chat. Cool, so no questions today? I know somebody just joined, so I don't know if they have any questions. Yeah, we kind of covered that though last week. I tried to say it in a non-offensive manner. It's just the thing is how do I say this? Yeah, it can throw you off, and it's also why I tend to stay away from it. I don't like seeing people's biases disrespectively. I don't see, why I should be even looking at them to begin with. So yeah, I just try to stay away from it, and if I see anything that's needed, then I'll engage. If not, then I just let you guys do your own thing. Yep, has its pros and cons. But yeah, you guys definitely still have me as a resource. If you guys need anything, definitely message me. Honestly, bro, I think, and if you need help with that, just mute that channel specifically. I think you can mute that specifically. Yeah, you can mute the channel specifically, where you can still get notifications from every other channel. Cool, but yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, let's see what happens on Tuesday. You guys have a good weekend. Yeah, of course. It's always, you're basically learning derivatives.